Welcome back into our 2017 fall semester of the IUP sports show, The Big Hit. I'm your host, Sarah Most. I'm so happy to be back and here with you guys. I hope that you've missed us. We've definitely missed you. We have a lot in store today for our first show. A lot of new faces. I'm very happy to welcome a lot of the new guys here on our show, along with some new crew members as well. We're going to jump into the show, though, by talking some college football with Dylan Barkis and Sean Fritz. We're going to talk a little about how Clemson on the road to beat Louisville. We're going to talk about our Heisman favorite already through the first 3 weeks of the season. Then we're going to take it over to the NFL with Jake Taylor and Izzy Muhammad, and we're going to talk a little bit smack about the Dallas Cowboys. We're going to talk a little bit about the Green Bay Packers, not my favorite topic. And then we're going to talk about the best looking team so far that we think are looking really hot heading into week 3. And then we close the show today with Elliot Hicks and Chris Hayes talking some MLB, talking about the Pirates and the Phillies, about how they haven't been doing so hot this year so far. And then we're going to talk about the who we think is going to the World Series and who's going to the playoffs. So like I said, a lot in store for you guys for our first show. Thank you for joining us again. And we welcome you guys back into the Big Hit. And welcome into the Big Hit. Welcome to our first segment of our first show of the fall 2017 semester. I'm excited to be here. I'm here with a familiar face, Mr. Sean Fritz, and a new face, Dylan Barkis. How are you guys today?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Happy to be back?
Yep, one more go-around.
I know, this is crazy.
Happy to be here.
Well, I'm glad you guys are here. Let's talk some college football, shall we?
Let's do it.
All right. Let's start off with Clemson. Clemson went on the road and defeated Louisville 47-21. Kelly Bryant outdueled Lamar Jackson with 316 yards and 3 total touchdowns. My question to you guys is Clemson poised for another trip to the national championship, or what's going on here?
Yeah, I for the national championship again. Kelly Bryant is, kind of come out of the gates really hot to start, his tenure as a quarterback at Clemson, kind of picking up where Deshaun Watson left off, and even a little bit better, to be honest with you. I think he's kind of an improved Deshaun Watson in a lot of aspects. He's a big physical kid. He's excellent running the football. I think he's a quicker Deshaun Watson, and he can also throw the ball pretty well too. And I think that's something that'll develop over time with him as well. As far as defensively, Clemson is probably the best defense in the country, holding Auburn to 6 points and then containing Lamar Jackson the way they did. I think the key for them was keeping him inside the pocket and forcing him to be more of a passer, because I think that's somewhere where, although he has improved a bit, I think his bread and butter is in his legs and his ability to get out of the pocket and make plays. I was really impressed by him. I think they got one of the best coaches in the country in Dabo Swinney. I think one challenge that they will have in the ACC is probably going to be Florida State, even with the loss of their quarterback, DeAndre Francois. Jimbo Fisher and his team will always come to play. They're 0-1 right now. They're going to have to try to bounce back this week. But they've got a solid defense as well. They got some really good players on that football team. I think that'll probably be Clemson's next test. If they can take care of business against the Seminoles, I think there's a good shot they'll go back to the ACC championship and then possibly the college football playoff.
Sean, I absolutely agree. I feel a lot more confident in this team this year than last year. And the reason for it's in the numbers. Last year when Clemson and Louisville faced off, Lamar Jackson captained an offense of 36 points and 568 yards total offense. Look at last Saturday. In the first 43 minutes of the game, there was a measly 7 points and 185 yards. If there's a defense alive that can stymie an offense captained by the reigning Heisman champion, which there is in Clemson, I believe they're more deserving of a trip to the ship. To further confirm they belong in the conversation, their offense gained 613 yards against Louisville. They're better on both sides of the ball than, I think, any other team in college ball.
All right. Do you agree with some of that, Sean? I mean, that's kind of similar points.
I think Alabama is probably the best team in the country, but I think with Alabama excluded, I think Clemson has shown a lot. I think defensively, like I said, I think they are if they're not the best, I know Alabama's got a lot of playmakers. They probably got, 7, 8, 9 guys who are probably going to go get drafted next year.
Easily. As
they usually do. And they keep just replenishing. But Clemson, I think Clemson is a force to be reckoned with. I know everybody's talking about the ACC as this big-time conference and stuff. I think Clemson definitely puts them on the map. I still am more of an SEC guy, but if Clemson can keep playing the way they are, I think Clemson is definitely going to be in the conversation. I expect them to be there in the top 4 at season's end.
All right, very good. Sure. We're looking forward to it. Let's talk about a team that hasn't really been doing so hot, especially this past week. LSU was upset by Mississippi State 37-7. They struggled to move the ball a lot. They have now slumped to number 23 in the polls. So can they do anything to turn it around, or do you think this is just a terrible start for them?
offensively they've got to be better. And I think
Right.
we have this conversation every year when we talk about LSU. LSU defensively is fine. DBU, they're fine. I think they get after it defensively. I think they're solid defensively. Even though they got lit up in, week one, or I'm sorry, not week one, but a week ago, they got lit up against Mississippi State, giving up 37 points. But I think defensively they're going to be fine. Offensively, they got to be a lot better, starting with the quarterback. The quarterback play has been suspect at LSU for years now. This Etling kid, 137 yards in the air, 16 for 23, whatever he was, whatever the final stat line was. They've got to be better. No touchdowns, didn't turn the ball over, but it starts with him, and it also starts in the ground game. Darius Geis is one of the best backs in the country. He's supposed to be a Heisman candidate. He's held under 100 yards on the ground. They've got to be a lot better running the football as well. Defensively, I think they got some kinks to work out. I think overall they'll be fine, but they've got to be a lot better and more consistent offensively, especially against big-time opponents like Mississippi State. When you play in the SEC West, you've got to be able to put points on the board, and I know that's been a huge struggle for them. But Coach Ed Orgeron has got to figure it out, and they've got to start putting some points on the board because you're not going to beat teams 9-3 every week. You're going to have some breakdowns defensively. They got to figure that out.
Now, before I get into LSU, I got to say, this Saturday's game helped put Mississippi State back on the map. And Coach Dan Mullen lost the best quarterback in school history in Dak Prescott. Now he's in the NFL and tearing it up. And after a rebuilding year last season, it appears Mullen has his best team yet. And I'm not surprised that Mississippi State won. I'm surprised they blew them off the map. It was a very high-scoring affair by them. And LSU is a marquee program, and they have a decent amount of returning starters coming back. They have an interim coach who showed last year that he knows how to win. He just has to keep doing it more this year. This year they have a new offensive coordinator in Matt Canada, and his name sounds so familiar because he's the former offensive coordinator for Pitt. Last year when he was there, he helped James Conner and Nathan Peterman just run all over and throw all over people, period. Pitt had a very good year last year, offensively. But in the backfield, they lack Fournette, but they now have a greater weapon in Darius Geis. And Geis has been highly touted by many scouts over the past couple of years, and Fournette himself even admitted on Bleacher Report that Darius Geis will be drafted higher than me. The next few weeks, LSU has a stretch of bad teams coming up. I feel like they'll be able to rebound and win a few games. But later in the season, they face a lot of SEC opponents such as Alabama and Texas A&M, and they got Auburn as well. That's going to be a challenge for them. I don't think they'll bring their A game.
So we have some high hopes for LSU, but as you guys have both mentioned, they have some tough components on their schedule further on the season. So we'll see how they do. Let's talk about some rankings. Are there any teams or a single team who you feel are ranked lower or higher than they should be right now?
Yeah, for me, I think just a team off the top of my head. I think Georgia deserves a spot to crack the top 10. I think they're sitting at 11 right now in a couple polls. Georgia doing what they did against Notre Dame, who was also ranked at the time, to go into South Bend, first time they've ever gone in to South Bend and win a close game like that with a freshman quarterback. I think you got to start turning some heads. I know they had a cupcake game against Samford this past week, but moving into SEC play, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Georgia can do because I think they've got an excellent defense. So I think right now the SEC East is a little bit of a mess, especially with the Florida-Tennessee game and how that ended this past week. I don't know who the clear-cut favorite is in the SEC East, but I think Georgia's got a shot, and I think we should watch for them to slide into the top 10 if they can keep it rolling how they have. So I would say Georgia is a team that I think should probably slide in there, and a team that I think maybe is ranked a little. Well, I don't really know if there's anybody that's ranked too high. I think the top 4 right now is how I would put it myself. I think USC, though, is a team that you can always watch out for sliding into the top 4. I know they struggled this week with Texas, and they really were outplayed and dominated by Texas. But I think if they can keep it rolling the way we've seen them at times and kind of adjust to some of their issues with receivers not catching the football, being weak at cornerback, I think there's some things that they can fix along the season. I think them getting over Stanford is a big win for them. I think to watch out for USC and Clay Helton's team moving forward.
Right now, 25th ranked LSU, they better learn to love their spot because I don't think they're going to have it long. They're somewhat of a misfit considering they got blown out last week by an unranked Mississippi State. Unfortunately, they have a stretch of 2 bad teams these next 2 weeks in Syracuse and Troy, so they'll probably hover around the 20s. But in the next 4 weeks after that, they play, in this order, number 20 Florida, number 15 Auburn, They play an unranked Ole Miss, but although they're unranked, they still aren't easy. And then lastly, number 1 Alabama. Unless the team gets himself going in the right direction fast, I don't see them staying ranked.
All right. Well, let's jump into our last final question of college football before we jump into our next segment. We're week 4 now, heading into week 4 into the season. So throughout the past 3 weeks, who is your Heisman favorite?
I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. Everybody's going to say it, but Saquon Barkley from Penn State's been phenomenal.
There you go.
Absolutely incredible.
Agreed.
I think he's got a really, really good shot at winning the Heisman Trophy this year. He's the best running back in college football. I thought Darius Geis was going to have a little bit better start to the season. Obviously, I mentioned him earlier. He held just 76 yards on the ground. Barkley does it all. They moved it back to the primary kick returner now. James Franklin did so. Now he's got another opportunity to showcase his skill and his talent and his agility, his speed, all that stuff. I think Barkley is the front runner right now, but don't rule out Sam Darnold from USC. He's the best quarterback in college football and had a Heisman-like performance to lead USC back to tie the game under a minute against Texas this past weekend. The jump throw was probably one of the best plays you're going to see in college football all year, putting the ball in the numbers the way he did. I think the kid's a leader. He doesn't have much help at wide receiver. He's got a lot of guys who drop a lot of balls. He continuously puts the ball in the money, and he's the only reason that USC was able to win that game the other night. Otherwise, we're talking about USC sliding out of the top 10. So Darnold's another one to watch. If he keeps it up, he's going to definitely be there in December, along with Saquon Barkley.
I feel like coming into this season, this was Lamar Jackson's race to lose, and now I feel like it's a 4-horse race. Lamar Jackson's been doing what he does week in, week out, up until last week, and that's put up video game numbers and relentlessly terrorizing defenses. But Clemson just proved to be too much for him, and because of that, I feel like he might not be the strongest guy. However, 2 weeks ago, Baker Mayfield played what I feel is one of the best games of his career so far against Ohio State. And it's never easy to beat Ohio State, and it definitely does not happen often. So a quarterback like him, I feel, needs to be in the conversation. Saquon Barkley, like you mentioned, definitely another guy who belongs, but I feel like he still has a couple weeks to go to prove himself because, especially last week, of course it was a scrub team, but he only put up less than 50 yards to my memory. However, he's still got a long ways to go. I really feel like he will do what he can, considering he has 8 yards a carry and 102 yards a game. Things are going to go well for him. And lastly, like you mentioned, Sam Darnold. His performance, especially in double OT against Texas, that jump throw, it's sensational. I feel like this isn't going to be the last big play that he makes this year, and I expect many more plays to come from him.
Well, gentlemen, like I said, we're heading into week 4, so there's a lot more football to be played, that's for sure. But we will definitely keep watch of those guys that you mentioned. You all made some good points to back them up. So for college football, that was Dylan Barkis and Sean Fritz. Stay tuned, NFL with Jake Taylor and Izzy Muhammad. We'll be right up. And it's time to talk some NFL. Welcome back to the IUP Sports Show, The Big Hit. I'm here with a familiar face, as you all know, Mr. Izzy Muhammad. And joining us today, welcome to The Big Hit, Mr. Jake Taylor. How are you guys today?
I'm good.
We're good?
Just ready to get the
some?
season
There we
started
go.
off. Yeah, I'm excited.
Heading into week 3 already of the NFL, we talked a little bit before the show, but I think it's time that we are ready to talk some smack on the Dallas Cowboys. That's what we've decided here. So let's do it. The Denver Broncos dominated the Dallas Cowboys 42-17. Ezekiel Elliott, not a good game for him at all. Had a career low of 8 rushing yards. Dak Prescott went for 2 and 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Dallas did not look great at all. But that being said, how bad of a loss was this for Dallas, considering that they did win 19-3 over the Giants in week 1?
When you think about this, honestly, the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, okay, America's team, right. America's team does not allow Dak Prescott to throw 50 times in the game. Dak Prescott shouldn't throw 50 times in the game, and Ezekiel Elliott in no means, in any definition of the word, should have less than 10 carries. He had 9 carries for about 8 yards. Now that honestly is deplorable. He's not the type of running back that is, come in for a few snaps and then goes into the next game getting 50. He needs to have a consistent number, easily like 20, 25 a game. And as we saw during this game, that they were struggling. Dak Prescott threw a pick. He threw one for 103 yards, I believe, which is that's a pretty bad pick. But when you think about this, it was just a really bad game. There was too much pressure on Dak Prescott. It was a lot of pressure. You had one of the best offensive lines in the game, but then you had problems just all around. The Broncos just looked ridiculous. You had Aqib Talib, Chris Harris had a pick. It was just a lot of guys active on the defensive front for the defensive front for the Denver Broncos, and Trevor Siemian was looking like an all-pro quarterback. So when you have factors like that happen, you can't expect much when you're thinking about whether or not how far they're able to. You can't expect much from the Cowboys, with this scandal with Ezekiel Elliott talking about did he give up on the team. After that interception, they said that he just walked off the field, and I believe that's blown out of proportion. I just believe that he was upset that he wasn't getting the ball throughout the game. But honestly, this loss, still get over it. Ezekiel Elliott, he'll have a fantastic game next year, but this was a terrible loss. I mean, a better game next week, not next year.
What do you think, Jake?
Yeah, I completely agree. The Dallas Cowboys last year, second best rushing offense in the league, and I know Denver's defense, they're legit. They're probably the best in the league, but you're not going to win the game with Dak Prescott passing the ball. Even though he won Rookie of the Year last year, Ezekiel Elliott, way better stats, way better everything, all around better player. I mean, who's he passing the ball to? Jason Witten's the second most targeted player in the NFL. I mean, he's old. He's past his prime. Dallas Cowboys 13-3 last year. Not going to be the same this year, especially playing some good teams.
And it seems like you can't even throw the ball to Dez unless it's in the goal line and throwing them 10 yards out. And that's about what you think. You would expect more production from your number one wide receiver, but we'll just have to see, make sure they get that chemistry back, and they'll be good, though.
Yeah. Keep in mind, too, that the Dallas Cowboys do have other good running backs. I mean, they're not as good as Ezekiel Elliott, but, I mean, I guess they showed a little bit more of their faces this past game and the game before that. But let's talk about another game that wasn't the best, a little bit of a sore subject for me, so I won't say too much about my Green Bay Packers. They lost to Atlanta, pretty bad. Well, not pretty bad, but 34-24. They looked terrible. With that being said, Atlanta did look very good. They looked like the team who went to the Super Bowl last year, that's for sure. Matty Ice, Matt Ryan, looks great, I won't lie. With that being said, will Atlanta run away with it this year in the NFC? Also consider other teams in the NFC like Seattle and Arizona and Green Bay and Dallas. So what do you think is Atlanta going to take it all the way again this year or what?
I mean, Atlanta was definitely my early, before the season started, they were my pick to go to the Super Bowl again. And throughout these first few weeks of the NFL season, definitely they are still showing that they're strong contenders, definitely going to be a contender. I think they'll get to the NFC championship easily. But, I think about the Panthers are also, they're also 2-0 and they're in that division. So, honestly, Julio Jones is still, I believe, in my opinion, he's the best receiver in the league. Antonio Brown, he's great. But Julio Jones, they tried to double cover him and it wasn't working. Like, you can try to double cover the man, but it just won't work. And then you had Devontae Freeman, Tevin Coleman, guys like that. During that game, Aaron Rodgers just looked like he was under distress. You had guys like Desmond Trufant picked him off. Then you had a fumble, which he returned for a touchdown. You got sacked by Vic Beasley, who's looking like he's going to be great this year. It's just, honestly, they look like everything is clicking on all cylinders for them. And they don't look like they're slowing down at any point in time. And they still have two fresh, like the running back system, when they have two fresh guys basically in each time, that's really wearing down these defenses. And Matt Ryan's looking like he's still going to be elite, and he's going to have a great season this year as well. So we just have to keep waiting.
I mean, you guys saw the Gatorade commercial. Matty Ice wants to win because he lost last year in the Super Bowl.
That's true.
We've all seen it. And I think actually Devontae Freeman is the key piece to that team, that offense. I think they are the three best offensive players in the game. Matt Ryan, Devontae Freeman, and Julio Jones. I mean, Ben, Bell, and Brown are up there, but they don't produce. I mean, they almost lost to the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, that's another topic for another day. But yeah, so you guys said all the right things. I mean, they do have the good dynamic duo with the wide receiver, running back, quarterback combination. They're a good team. You can't deny it, that's for sure. Atlanta's a good team, and I think they will go very far. Let's talk about another good team that has been doing really, really well so far, I think, in my opinion. Kansas City Chiefs are 2-0. They beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Sorry, Izzy. 27-20. I know, disappointing loss for you. Let's talk about Kareem Hunt. Rookie, what a guy. He's had two great games so far this season. Against the Patriots in Week 1, he had 2 touchdowns for 81 yards. Against Philly, had 109 yards from scrimmage and 2 touchdowns. So the guy's doing a really good job. He's really showing that he knows how to run the ball. Keep in mind, though, it is week 3, so a lot of things can change. But how much of a spark has Hunt been for the team? I mean, between him and Alex Smith and everybody else, they're just doing really, really good. They look like a good team. You agree with that, Izzy?
Kareem Hunt has brought a lot of energy to the Kansas City Chiefs. When you think about it, his first game, he had a fumble on the first scrimmage, the first carry from scrimmage, and then he came back and had a wonderful game after that. And then going into next week, people wanted to see if he was still the real deal. And came out and had 109 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, then you think about this, he's a guy who brings a lot of energy to the team. He's a guy who's patient. He's a guy who has a lot of skills. He was a guy who's passed up on, so he has the chip on his shoulder. And he's showing that throughout these first few weeks, and he wants to be the guy that everyone's talking about to be this rookie of the year. And honestly, the way that his season's been starting, we'll just have to wait and see, but he's on the right track. He's going to be a star in this league for years to come. Hopefully he stays healthy. But this guy is a guy that gives them a lot of energy, enthusiasm, and Alex Smith and the rest of the offense is going to groom him and going to make sure that he's great.
Yeah, I agree. You know, the Chiefs like to have players that spread out the ball, running backs that catch the ball, wide receivers that run the ball. And Tyreek Hill, you know, he's been like the main piece for them the last season, even though Alex Smith was leading the team in rushing touchdowns with 5. And already Spencer Ware, you know, got hurt, season-ending injury. So you bring in Kareem Hunt, and that just changes the entire game. And I don't want to say it's not good when any player gets hurt, but with Spencer Ware going out brings Kareem Hunt in the mix, and he's just phenomenal. He's right now carrying that team on his back. I know Alex Smith's having a heck of a 2 games, but you can't deny the numbers that Kareem Hunt's putting up, leading the league in rushing. Who would have guessed that?
Yeah, let's hope he continues to do well because I have him in fantasy, so it's very important that he scores me some points. All right, first team that comes to mind when I ask you this question. This is one I want to know. First team, who has been the best-looking team throughout the past 2 weeks of the season? Izzy?
I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. When you knock off the defending champs, and you just think about how they came out in that game, they apply a lot of pressure. They're active on defense. You got D Ford and Justin Houston on the end, and Justin Houston had 3 sacks in 2 games. He's already having a nice campaign, and he's talking about being defensive player of the year. So, like guys like that, Marcus Peters, you know, they lost Eric Berry for each season and then injury with the Achilles, but that didn't even shake them through the second game against Philadelphia. When you think about this team, they have a lot of weapons. You know, while we were just talking about Kareem Hunt, he's going to be a guy that's going to be crucial for them going down the line. And Andy Reid, he's going to take this team far. I believe throughout the first 2 weeks, they've shown the most. You have a lot of other teams, like the Raiders look like they're pretty good. Of course, the Falcons. There's a few other teams that are going to be great down the stretch. But right now, the Chiefs have made the biggest statement, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree. I put down the Kansas City Chiefs as well for that. You know, beating the New England Patriots is just a feat in itself, especially defending Super Bowl champs coming back. First game of the season, all eyes on them. Shut down Tom Brady, reigning Super Bowl MVP. And Kareem Hunt, Alex Smith, Tyreek Hill. I know Eric Berry's out, but that offense right now putting up unreal numbers. They're in the best division in football, in my opinion, with them, the Oakland Raiders and the Denver Broncos. I mean, the Chargers. Who really cares about them?
They might be good. The Chargers, they okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, with them, I mean, they won the division last year. Tough division to win. And I think they're just going to do it all again. Hopefully they can actually score some touchdowns in the playoffs this year. I know the Steelers' defense, as poor as they were last year, shut them down. So I think they're coming in with the chip on their shoulder as well. The team looking, Andy Reid's great coach, trying to get some success, get some hardware in his trophy room. And I think they're the best team so far.
All right, so all around we're taking the Kansas City Chiefs. We have high hopes for them, so we're going to see how they do throughout the season. All right, for Jake and Izzy, that was our NFL segment. Stay tuned, we have MLB next. Thanks for tuning in to The Big Hit. I'm here with Chris Hayes and Elliot Hicks. A new face here on The Big Hit. We have a lot of new faces this year. I'm super excited about it, as I'm sure you all remember my co-host and an MLB analyst, and pretty much talks whatever, Chris Hayes. How are you guys today?
Pretty good. Doing well.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, we're talking MLB, like I said before, our last segment of today's show. So let's just jump right into it. Let's not waste any time. Let's talk about the Pirates. Our favorite team, but not so favorite team at the moment. Both the Pirates and the Phillies have experienced consecutive losing seasons. Pirates are 68 and 83. Phillies are 59 and 61. not good records to be talking about. What do both clubs need to do to have success next season?
Well, the Phillies are on the right track. They have young stars like Rhys Hoskins, who's gone off the past couple of months. Aaron Nola is a great #1 pitcher. I think he will continue to be so in the future. They have some other good players, too, who haven't really realized their potential yet. Odubel Herrera, Michael Franco, guys that could turn it on the next couple of years. But they're in good shape. They're still in rebuilding mode, but they're getting there. The Pirates, on the other hand, we're not really sure. I think to contend next year, they have to keep McCutchen. They can't trade him. They have to keep Garrett Cole. Tyon's going to keep developing. Trevor Williams will keep developing. Chad Kuhl. The pitching's going to be good. Just the lineup is a question mark. McCutchen needs to be at the level he was at for most of the year this year. Josh Harrison needs to come back healthy. Guys like that have to step up. They have potential if they keep their guys. If they don't keep their guys, then it's back to the past 20 years of losing before 2013.
I don't know. I'd have to disagree with you on the McCutchen thing. As much as we all love Andrew McCutchen, being Pirates fans, I think it's going to be time for him to go. He's going to get paid upwards of $15 million next season in that option. I think even if they pick that up, he's going to get traded. They can get those last couple of prospects they need. You know, they've done decent enough this season, given some of those younger guys to playing time, as you elaborated on. The pitching staff, guys like Williams and Kuhl. Garrett Cole, I think they should keep. He can be the ace next season. And getting some of those veterans off the roster, guys like John Jaso and Chris Stewart, who, as decent as they are, take time away from guys like Max Moroff, Adam Frazier, players like that. And I think that if they can do that, get those last couple pieces, have guys like Austin Meadows properly developed, take that spot in the outfield, I think you could see like 2019 to 2021 be real similar to 2013 to 2015 for the Pirates. For the Phillies, like you said, they are going in the right direction. I think if they can get one more pitcher to add to their pitching staff, sign somebody in free agency, they'll be there. Rhys Hoskins, as you said, I remember watching him a couple of years ago in the Australian Baseball League. He won one of those winter leagues. I knew he had potential, and he's realizing it here. Odubel Herrera had a rough year, but if guys like he and Franco can pick it up, the Phillies may have a good shot at contending next season.
So we're on the fence about trading McCutchen, but that's okay. I'm sure we'll have
If the
more
Pirates want
discussions of
to
that
contend
later.
next year, they have to keep him. If they want to rebuild, then trade him.
All right. And he's saying trade him. We're trading him next year.
I think this winter you got to get rid of him.
All right. Well, we're going to see what happens with that.
Yeah, you got to pick your side.
That'll be interesting without a doubt. Let's talk about the American League playoff picture. It's practically set. We have Houston. We have Cleveland. Who's going to the postseason between the two teams, Chris?
Cleveland. I like Cleveland a lot more than Houston right now. I mean, we all know about the 22-game win streak for Cleveland that happened a couple weeks ago. Houston has been probably the better team throughout the whole season. They acquired Justin Verlander, which was huge for them to cap off that rotation, which is pretty deep now with Verlander, Keuchel, Lance McCullers, those guys. I just think the Indians are deeper in the lineup and the rotation and their bullpen. Cody Allen, Andrew Miller, shut down guys in the bullpen. Their lineup's solid. Guys really come into their own in that lineup this year. And then the rotation led by Corey Kluber he's probably going to win the Cy Young, either him or Chris Sale, but Kluber's a stud. They made the World Series last year. They're hungry to get back and actually win it this year. I think we'll talk about that later, but I think they have a good shot.
Yeah, I pretty much have to echo a lot of what you said there. The Astros, they didn't do too much at the trade deadline, but they got Verlander about the last second on August 31st.
Yeah.
That really shows they're all in. Cleveland, just getting Andrew Miller back off the disabled list during that win streak, that's huge for him. Kluber's a great pitcher. I mean, they both have had great seasons. I would have to say Cleveland has a better chance of moving forward, though.
Yeah, I would have to agree with the both of you, too. I like Cleveland a lot over Houston. All right, rapid response time. I'm just going to ask a question. Tell me the first thing that comes to your mind. All right, who finishes at the top of the American League?
Cleveland.
All right, and the NL, National League?
Still the Dodgers, even though they've been kind of slumping lately.
I agree. They started off super hot for the whole season. They've been bad for the past month, but they'll get it together with that pitching with Kershaw.
All right, so Dodgers and Cleveland. What two clubs teams do you see playing in the World Series? Give me a World Series matchup.
I would, I gotta dig through this stuff here. We can edit this out. Sorry about that. I would have to say Cleveland goes back in the American League, and funny enough, I have Washington in the National League. I think that the Dodgers have kind of lost their summer momentum, and I think the Nationals getting Bryce Harper back. They also have a great pitching staff. I'm going to have to go Washington there in the National League.
I think the AL is all Cleveland. I agree with you. In the NL, I'm going to actually go with LA, the Dodgers. I think they'll get their act together back into the postseason, and they'll, behind Corey Seager and Kershaw and all those guys, Cody Bellinger, the Rookie of the Year most likely, they'll get it together and they'll make the World Series for the first time in a while.
The one thing to remember in the postseason, though, that kind of led me to pick a team like Washington. It's not always the best team, but the hottest team
That's
that
true.
ends up doing well in the postseason.
That is true.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. World Series champion.
I think
Who's going all
Cleveland
the
gets
way?
it done this year.
Cleveland, okay.
I agree, the Indians. A couple of years ago, the Royals lost the World Series. The next year, they came back and won. Last year, the Indians lost. They're going to come back and win it this year.
Yeah.
All right.
Just as long as they don't blow another 3-1 lead, they'll be all right.
So here on the Big Hit, for the most part, us three, we're taking the Cleveland Indians to go all the way to the World Series. Let's see if that happens. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Elliot. And that's a wrap for our first show of the season. I'm happy to be here for producers Izzy Mohammed and Jared Brown and director Darnell Turner. That's the Big Hit. Catch us next week.